Everyone. We are live on this New Year's Day. Glad that everybody who is watching this live right now or in the replay, without any doubt, do this week on this broadcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch as always. Yeah, hey guys, Happy New Year to you all. Um, Been a very interesting New Year's for me. Um, Let's see. Yesterday, I went to the Royal Theater here in Amsterdam and saw my very first ballet. I've never been to the ballet before. I saw ballet's Snow White. I'm sorry, Sleeping Beauty, and it was really something to see. I have to tell you, I've been to Kabuki Theater in Tokyo. I've been to Broadway shows and more orchestra shows than I can, full orchestra shows that I can imagine to say. I can hardly remember, but this was something. It was like, I'd tell you, it was really something. I've never been to the opera before. I'm sure I'll get to that. Hey, Happy New Year's, Ben. Thank you for showing up. I'm sure one of these days, without any doubt, I'll go to an opera. But as a total experience, I have to say that that was something. That was a really awesome thing to witness. And so I'm glad I did that. Other than that, here in Amsterdam, there was a fireworks ban, which meant that you could not, fire off any fireworks. Of course, it was completely ignored. And from my place, I have a pretty good view of the whole city. Actually, I'm pretty high up, a 360 view actually, and it was like Disneyland, fireworks show times 10,000. I have to since we're not on the lockdown here anymore. Everybody really cut loose, and oh boy, it was more fireworks than I've ever seen, and it went on for a long time. It was stunning, the hours worth of fireworks. And I mean, it started early. It started around 10. And I think it stopped around 2. So it was like 4 hour fireworks show. But it was pretty cool. My dog Hoshi was not scared. She's not bothered by it. So there was no problem with that. And my cats, oddly enough, for some reason, they like watching it. They were just sitting there looking at the fireworks. They were not scared at all, like most pets would be. They were fascinated. If they had popcorn, they'd have been really set. So, but yeah, it was quite a fireworks show. It was really something. It's pretty cool just to be able to sit at home and be able to get a fireworks show like that. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's been a very good, interesting, but quiet New Year's for me. I hope the same is for you guys out there. Wow, a lot of things I want to talk about tonight. Now, I titled this show, I actually have two topics to talk about tonight. so, hang on to your hats for these two topics. They're actually, they kind of meld into each other, and you'll see what I mean here in a minute. But the subject of tonight's show, as you saw, was just junk, just Chinese junk. And what did I mean by that? Here, let me get this. Oh, I have something written down I want to read. So, it is crazy to me that you would. Okay, I'll set this up. There was a guy, as you know, I bought the Joe Bonamassa, actually traded up into a Joe Bonamassa 335, the most recent one. And, sometimes I like to read articles or see things that people are saying, reviews of what people think about the guitar because, I'm kind of a nerd like that. I told you guys, I do a lot of research. I even research the stuff that I already have just so that there may be something about it that I didn't know, which happens more often than you would think. So it's certainly a worthwhile pursuit to do that. But yeah, honestly, this guy was just showing off his Joe Bonamassa 335 on one of the forums. And I was like, awesome. Let me see what this guy has to say. Greetings, Mike. Happy New Year. Mickey, Happy New Year's to you. Thank you for showing up, sir. Welcome on board. We got two subjects tonight. Just got into the first one, and he was showing off his 335. And this guy got on to the forum and he said this. I wrote it down. He said, "You couldn't pay me to play that Chinese trash. I would feel a real sense of shame if I owned, let alone promoted a product like that." Happy New Year. Yeah, so this guy's whole premise was feeling a sense of shame and of this guy showing off his Chinese-made 335 that I own as well. As a matter of fact, I own quite a few. I have owned quite a few Chinese Epiphones, so I know of what I speak myself on my end. And I just, if we put, his xenophobia and whatever else is in, a little bit of racism there, quite frankly, that's involved in that statement. If we put all that aside, first of all, it is fascinating to me. It is still 5, but it's a good holiday. HIV and lots of HNY and HNY, got you. Yeah, that's good. One of the best things about New Year's is just chilling with your friends or doing things with your friends, but just being around your people, and that's a good thing. Mine are mostly cats, but that's a separate issue. That in this day and age, there's this kind of vehemence that came out when this guy was showing off his guitar. It's really a hurtful kind of thing because you get on the forum and you want to say, "Hey, I got this cool instrument. Why don't you guys take a look?" And and you can like or dislike it, but or you can just skip the page and not say anything, which seems to be a problem with a lot of people out there, particularly this guy. But you're doing it in a spirit of sharing, and to get this kind of reply back, I immediately posted my guitar and said, "Hey, this is an awesome instrument," and I completely ignored this guy who posted that. He's obviously just a troll, and I'll tell you why. Music, I'll start this out by saying music really by definition is really, it's kind of a collaborative is the word I'm looking for, kind of thing. And that in itself means that you're working with people in a spirit of good for you if you're not back in the guy. I couldn't stand that because I was like, wait a minute, I would feel a real sense of shame if I owned, let alone promoted a product like that. I mean, and a guy like this is not really a true musician because, like I said, music by definition is a collaborative kind of thing. It is not a combative type of thing. When you get on the forum and you make statements like this, and you're basically saying everybody in guitar made in China and building Gibson Epiphone, yeah, I know, yeah. I mean, it's that there's cats. And by the way, you will never convince a person who has this kind of attitude. You could have all the stats, all the facts and figures, everything that you wanted to, and it would still not get through their thick knuckle heads. But the reason I bring this up, and this subject is my first one up tonight, is because really, seriously, to make these kind of statements, and that there's people out there that view that, they're showing that they're not, I want you guys to recognize these, so when you see them, you know how to deal with them and how to handle them. And a guy like this is not a real musician. He's being combative. That's the opposite of being, a collaborative. He got onto a forum where a guy was sharing and say, hey, look at my instrument. By the way, the guy who bought the guitar apparently plays, if I read it correctly, plays in Vegas on the Strip in one of the big casinos with one of the orchestras there. Hey, Mike, Happy New Year's, everybody. Hey, hey, sir, thank you so much for showing Happy New Year's to you. Thank you so much for being here today. That's really a treat. Thank you. Yeah, the guy who bought it, and he said, when I'm with the band that he's been playing with for 7 years, none of the other musicians, when he takes the guitar, his Epiphone out of the cases, in his case, it was a casino. A beautiful casino. He showed a picture of it. And he says when he takes it out, none of the other musicians say anything. They don't question it. They don't, get into, hey, where's your Gibson? Or how come that's not a Fender? Or where's your PRS Blue Sky? No, nobody says that, And I've been saying that myself for years. I have played with bands all over the world, literally. Live situation gigs and jam sessions. And never once did anybody ever say anything about anybody's guitar or bass. Nobody ever that I ever heard that never came out, and it was really what got down to what you could do with it, and that's really what the crux of it is. That's how I know a guy like this who makes these kind of statements is not a true musician. That's my point, and that's why I wanted to start out with this tonight, because okay. Why still this problem with Epiphones? If you go back to the 1990s, to those old G400s, for example, those guitars, those early Epiphones, those 90 Epiphones were made from outer wood. The hardware and the pickups were complete rubbish, and the construction was of poor quality. Sound familiar, guys? Let's talk about Harley Benton. Let's put a pin mark in that. We'll talk about Harley Benton in a minute. That'll be our second subject. But, over the years, they evolved. They got to the point now where they are making excellent instruments. It's because the guys who've been working the line there, the supervisors are all from the States. It's really a self-contained unit all in itself. And these are experienced people. They've had 20 years now to learn how to make guitars, and they have perfected it to the point where these are excellent instruments. Regardless of where it was made, I have Indonesian guitars. I've had Japanese guitars. I've had American guitars. I never looked at where the guitar came from. It doesn't matter where an instrument is made or where the musician was born. It's what you can create with it. Yes, Mickey, that is correct. And that's why I said, so when you see guys like this on forums and they start shooting stuff down, you automatically know that this guy is not a real musician. He'll tell you, and much like this guy says that, I've got Gibsons and up the yin yang, I sleep on them at night. One is my pillow and the other one is my blanket. One of those kind of guys, right? And you could say, but they're not real musicians, I never once really cared about where the guitar or the bass or the keyboard, it was about, can I do something with this? Hendrix learned on a cheap guitar. Is a legitimate guitar? Yeah. I could go into the history of we've talked about this too a little bit, because if you go back into the history of guitarists in their early years, they all started out on the equivalent in the States Sears catalog type guitars. Over in the UK, it was something equivalent. Maybe it was Woolworths, because Woolworths, I think it was Woolworths. They all started out on these cheapo guitars. These guitars were generally made by companies who made furniture, but they had extra wood, and they decided to get into the guitar making business, and the results were a mixed bag. Jimmy Page with his Dan Electro, which by the way is made out of it's made out of particulate board, which is just compressed wood chips. That's what a Dan Electro always has been. That's what they're made out of. That's why they're very light. You could make that thing scream, and it was a guitar that was sold out of the Sears catalog, just like Hendrix. Hendrix got his guitar much in that same manner. And so, yeah, we all know here, we're not going to get, all of us know here, especially you guys who are on this channel, follow this channel, we're all of the same mindset that, it really comes down to these right here, and then your pickups and your amp and speaker, or your pedals, or your whatever rig you're using for your output is what it comes down to. And so, but to dismiss something because it comes from China, and to really, I mean, that is just a foul thing to say, because it's insulting. It's insulting to me. It's insulting to, he insulted me, this guy that showed off his guitar. You guys, everybody out there who owns an Epiphone, he basically, said that, we should all be ashamed of ourselves. Because we have, and that just, again, a guy like that who makes those kind of statements, and when and in the future you'll see them, and they'll attack you, or they'll come up to you and say, "Hey, look, man, I don't think you're a real musician because, quite frankly, your spirit is wrong." In Japan, in Nagoya, when I was playing keyboards, I was a keyboard player. I wasn't a guitar player when I was playing. In my early years in Japan. It wasn't until later that I became a band leader that I started playing guitar for, fronting. I always play guitar, but fronting with guitar because of, my lead singer and band leader responsibilities. But at that time, being a keyboard player, I was playing with other musicians, and these guys literally knifed each other over, I mean, these were some hardcore brothers. That they were a lot of African American guys that came over to Japan, and they were all solid musicians, but they were all from the East Coast, and and this was '90s, and these guys were serious. They were hardcore guys, fun guys to be around mostly, but they would really get into each other off stage sometimes. And then when we got back on stage, it was as if the guy just didn't get stabbed. I bought the yellow strap, bought it, as well. I can see all the parts in the back. It said, yeah, it's cool, man. Even though, we're playing on stage, the bass player's got a knife sticking out of his shoulder, but we're all playing like nothing happened, because when we got on stage, we were musicians, and we certainly, again, like I said, nobody ever said to me, "Hey, how come your keyboard is this, that, or whatever." I was rolling whatever I had at the time, and they never got into that with me, and certainly I never questioned the bassist or the guitar player for whatever they were playing. I never even looked, to be honest with you. I couldn't tell you with the guitar player in those bands that I was playing with, those live bands in the '90s. I couldn't even tell you what those guys were playing because I didn't care. I didn't look. It wasn't important. It was what we were playing. And yeah, and so even then we could get on stage and we could play together, and that wasn't the issue. So yeah, just recognize that, guys. Because those early ones had outer bodies, bad builds. They had, really rubbish pickups and hardware. And therefore, that company developed a bad reputation, especially when you consider Gibsons at that time as well in comparison. So certainly the Gibsons at that time, the so-called Goodwood era, the golden age, although I have owned literally several Gibsons from the '90s, and still, some were great, some weren't. But in comparison to those 90s Epiphones with the outer bodies and the things that I just listed, yeah, sure. It was no comparison. They were complete crap, you know. And Gibson was not in the position at that time to care about changing that. Even though Les Paul himself was really begging, not begging because he's Les Paul, but strongly suggesting that they do just that. Fast forward to now where these guys have the 20 years underneath their, you know, their belts. Gibson is really kicking in terms of sending over parts now, like the Burstbucker pickups and some of the other stuff. You know, actually, I don't even think they're sent over. I heard a story that says that the guitars are sent to, some of the limited edition guitars are actually sent to Gibson finished, and then they're sent out to dealers from there. I don't know if that would be an efficient way of doing that, but that's what I heard. But in any case, they stepped at their game. That Adam Jones guitar, again, boy, that's a beauty. Just on its own, without having the signature Adam Jones name on it, that is an awesome guitar. That is that kills some Gibson USAs. No joke. You know, seriously. Happy New Year. Welcome, welcome. But because of that comparison and because that stuck, some guys, they just can't get out of that, you know, crap Epiphone 90s mindset. And then you put on whatever, you know, prejudices they have regarding Chinese or Indonesians or Koreans or whoever else they want to shit on that week for whatever, you know, things they lack in their personal lives that they feel the need to make it up by being a complete jerk, you know, is just the way guys like that are going to be, and nothing we can say will change that. However, I do recognize that when it comes about, but I do list those things about the 90s Epiphones, the woods, the bad builds, the rubbish pickups and construction, and I said, does that sound familiar to you? Because that is my second subject, is that Harley Benton, as I was writing the script for this and about the first subject, and doing a little research into 90s Epiphones and looking at what were these things made out of, you know, what, you know, really what was, you know, the deal with these, because I was in Japan in the 90s. And the Epiphones that I was seeing over there, and the Fenders as well, were made in Japan. And those were awesome guitars. To this day, I don't know if all my traveling around, moving around would have allowed it, really, but I wish that I had looked a little bit more closely at those and picked up one or two more than I did, not just Telecasters. But the build of those guitars and the things of that nature were fantastic. So I really missed the lower quality stuff that was being sent everywhere else to the States and maybe Europe. It was really good guitars in Japan at that time. So I don't know. I don't have that kind of prejudice against Epiphones. I frankly have always looked at them as an alternative to the Gibsons, but produced by Gibson. What I call a second tier guitar. Second tier higher. They're higher. They're high end guitars because of their price. They're above $500, but they're second tier in the higher end, and so. Those, as I've gotten older and gotten wiser, you know, I realized that all along I was playing the right game by obtaining those guitars and using the Gibsons as just ways of putting them aside for a rainy day, and it worked out that way. But just playing the Epiphones. And the truth of the matter is, if I was gigging these days, I've said it before, I say it again, I would leave the Gibson at home and I would take the Epiphone with me on the road. Because trust me, you know, during rehearsals, during the show, the stuff that goes between shows, you can't always be there with your guitar. And even though sometimes you get to place the clubs I played it with, you know, as a headliner, when I was a headliner, I got my own room. The band, we all got our own room. But anybody, while we were on stage, could go in and out there. If I was all having a drink, you never know. We all kind of watch out for each other's instrument, but you just never know. And there's no way that I would take an expensive guitar these days out on me on the road. I wouldn't do it. playing a live gig. So they have that benefit. But the Harley Benton have kind of moved into that zone now where Epiphones in the 90s used to be. The description of the early 90s Epiphones is a very clear description of where the current Harley Bentons are. It's funny, if Harley Benton continues on this track in 20 years, they're going to be producing high-end Harley Bentons. Not just because of the inflation in 20 years from now, which I can't even imagine what that would be like, but just that seems to be the natural progression of these companies. But for the current state of Harley Benton right now, and I own a Harley Benton. I own two Harley Benton guitars. It's hit or miss. And it is the description, the different types of wood that they use. I have played single coil pickers on my first LP, and you have inspired me to begin with Epiphone. Yeah, you know what? Let's put a pin in the Harley Benton thing and answer that. If you are seriously thinking about getting a Les Paul, I got into this a little bit last week, but I would really take a look at a 335 or 339. You're going to get all the humbucker, especially if you're coming from single coil background like me, because I came from playing Telecasters. I have recently discovered with this 335 that I have now, and as a matter of fact, that's going to be my next show here on the channel, is comparing those two, the Les Paul and the 335. And I really think that the 335 kind of takes the edge. So you might want to take a look at also into the inspired by Gibson line 335s. As I pointed out, this 335, this Joe Bonamassa one, is a completely different animal than those, but those are great animals. I'm not planning on holding on to this 335. But I am, when I do let it go, I will go out and seek one of those inspired by Gibson models because, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that this one has, but doggone it, it's pretty nice. And so you might want to take a look at that. I think that 335 inspired by line by Epiphone is a great alternative to the Les Pauls. The Les Pauls are great as well. The gold top Les Pauls, I think that the 50s gold top Les Paul Epiphone, I think, was the best one of the bunch that they came out with. Long neck tenon, really good gold paint job on it. Just a stunning looking guitar. I even like the black veneer on it. I'm notorious for hating the back veneers on some of those Epiphone models, but that one is a beauty. I do believe that there is a black top version, a black back version of that floating around as well. But think about that. Think about the 335 as well. Kind of digging a little deeper, and if you get a chance to play the two of them, see which one you like better. I think the 335 might give you a lot of single coil tones. You can get some surprising single coil quack out of a 335. I did it with mine. I was completely surprised. I was like, wow, you can get that kind of tone. So that may be something to think about that the Les Paul does not have. But these Harley Bentons these days have really begun to take that lower end role. It's hit and miss. I just saw a video. What's that guy, KVH? He does a lot of investigative journalism when it comes to instruments and different things. I love the guy. Brilliant. You can tell, again, one of those really high IQ guys that you can tell this is the type of cat that you want to have around to advise you. Certainly, in a studio capacity. Sorry, try that one again, Bob. We didn't get that one. And it was a Harley Benton that he just got, one of the new ones. It's a high performance ones, and the pickups that he received from them were microphonic. And when he wrote back, KDH, yeah, KDH. Thank you, Mickey. Yeah, so he check it out, his latest video where he got the latest Harley Benton model, and the pickups were microphonic, meaning that I got an Epiphone 335 Raspberry by Cyber Monday. Awesome! Hey, that's a sweet pickup. Yeah, that Raspberry burst is a beauty. That's the one that I played when I was comparing 335s, the Gibson 335, the Epiphone, inspired by, it was the Raspberry burst that I played in this Joe Bonamassa when I was in the music store. And yeah, it's that Raspberry burst. That's actually the one that or the red. Those are the two colors that I'm actually very interested in. So we'll see. Like I said, I will be taking this 335 with me to Vindal in March to the Vintage Show, and we shall see what happens there. Yeah, the problem with KDH's pickups were they're microphonic, which means you could literally hold it up to your face and speak into the pickups and hear yourself through the speaker. Those are completely worthless. A lot of the older guitars, especially the ones import guitars that you get from Japan, you have to be careful about that. Because a lot of those, especially the 70s, late 70s, mid to late 70s, early 80s Japanese guitars, a lot of those pickups in those guitars have gone microphonic. So no good. But from a brand new guitar coming from Harley Benton, that's quite shocking. And even though he wrote back, sent them a video, explained to them these are microphonic, they still wrote back to him and said that's the way the guitar is supposed to be. Even though he can show other YouTubers who probably got their guitars for, not probably, without question, got sent these guitars by Thomann. And you better bet your sweet, bejeebies that they check these out real good before they sent them, as opposed to just a standard consumer. Yeah, there's no way you can make me believe that the guitars that they send out for reviews haven't been tech checked, maybe even double checked, because it defeats your purpose to send it to a YouTuber and him report, hey, this is that you've sent it to, that this is the guy you want because you want to reach his or her audience specifically. There's no way in God's green earth you're going to convince me that these guys didn't get them for free, one. And two, if they got one that was bad, that's just bad back on the cost of shipping back and forth and all that. You get my point. So yeah, these guys got the cream of the cream of the crop. Whereas the standard you and I, and in case KDH, who didn't get one for free, who actually spent his money and bought one, the reply back, that's the way the guitar is supposed to be. Now, this is a familiar refrain to budget guitars. And, that's kind of the customer service that you'll generally get with a lot of the budget companies. And so, unless you say to yourself, okay, well, I'm going to spend the extra money and buy new pickups for, hey, why don't you just buy new pickups for the guitar and just be done with the guitar? He demonstrated all the pots and caps and all that was still good. And I don't know, 2 Loose Salt Lawsuit guitars, and then you have a Mad Cat Telly. Wow, you have a Mad Cat Telly? Wow, awesome. That is a nice one. That is a keeper. I had, interesting enough, speaking of Harley Benton, their copy of the Mad Cat Telly, and I think I told you guys I donated it to the Ukrainian Children's Musician Society here in Amsterdam. But to have an original Mad Cat, that's something, Prince had me fooled all those years. It's pretty shoddy customer service from Thomann. Yes, Mickey, it is. Yeah, I love Mad Cats. So yeah, dig that. And he'll return and get his money. But his point was that, yeah, sure, I could replace the pickups, but that's not the point. If I was a young guy, I'll have to set up, of course, the Telly took months to get right. Second, yeah, that's how it is. They all take time. it took my 59 Les Paul a year, well, 2 years now, for me to get it to the point where it's butter now. It's you know, and I can set it down, let it sit for a day or so, pick it up again, and it's still good tune, still butter, intonation, not having any movement with the neck, all that stuff. Yeah, that's the other thing. You got to give a guitar a chance. You know, if you bond with it and you like it, and the paint's not peeling on it like my SG was, you got to give it a chance and try to do something with it. But in the case of KDH and his experience, his point is well taken. That if I was a yeah, Honer, yeah, the novice guitar player or the beginner is going to be really discouraged by something like that. He's not going to understand, and he's not going to be able to deal. He's not going to know that. I didn't know jack crap when I was a teenager, and I know you guys are the same as well. What did you really know when you first started playing guitars? You may none of my you would count on an older brother or sister or something like that who maybe were a musician to point you in that direction. Usually an older brother, but my brother was playing tennis and skiing. I like the skiing, but the tennis part was not something for me. So no, there was no. Although you could turn the racket around and play air guitar, I guess there was a little bit of synchronicity there, I suppose. But in any case, yeah, it really falls down to your friends and then just hearsay and stuff that you read. Back when I was a kid, there was no internet, so I had to read Guitar Player magazine or Rolling Stone, and a lot of that stuff, was spurless information at best. And that's just how it was. So it would be discouraging to receive. I would advise a Squier over Harley Benton for a beginning, and there we go. See, we know that the companies like Epiphone and Squier and all these other ones who for years now have been offshoring their build on their guitars, and have garnered that kind of experience that Harley Benton doesn't have. It really shows. You can kind of see that. You can see where there's potential for Harley Benton. You can see where they're at. They actually have a wider range and a wider variety of guitars than Epiphone in the 90s had. They have that going for them. So they can get a bigger audience. But they're still in that infancy stage. And it's very apparent when you compare it with the Squiers. By the way, honestly, the Squiers, it's like that 40th anniversary Squiers, those are made no different than a Broadcaster was. When Leo Fender made the Broadcaster, it was a hunk of wood with a neck on it. Great channel. Thank you very much. I discovered guitars on my own and brought Japanese Squier. That was I've told you guys before, my guitar Monica Butterscotch that I use for TV commercials, played it. You can see me playing it live on stage in some of the videos on this channel with my band in Japan. Was a Fender, but it was a made in Japan one. And the Squiers were just as good. And that was my other point I was just saying, is that those Squiers now are built just as good as a Broadcaster was back then. They're comparable. You could take that guitar and you could gig with it, no problem. Most of Harley Benton's are pretty blank copies of many. Yeah, and they skate by the headstocks because a lot of these companies, especially with Gibson, they only patented the 2D rendering of the body only in the case of most of their guitars. For the Les Paul, for example, they can only patent that shape. So you can't copy the dimensions of that Les Paul shape. You can change the head. I'm sorry. Did I get that wrong, or is it the other way? They didn't patent, or something like that. But anyway, it's existing in such a limbo in terms of patent that companies like I've been playing a Epiphone 59 tribute now for 3 weeks. So it's a great month. Yeah. Yeah, again, like the 59. Either way, guys, it's late. Forgive me. My fax machine, fax FACT, is not FS, is not working so great this evening. But in any case, they can get away with that by changing the headstock, and that's why you'll see copies of 335s. The heads like the Larry Carlton H7 is a different headstock. That's how they get away with it, and they can do that. But that doesn't mean that they have the even, the factories that they're using, the Indonesian factories is hit and miss for Harley Benton's. Some of the Chinese ones that they're having made, the headstock is on Gibson, the body dimensions, set to the manual change can be, yeah, thank you. Thank you. So the headstock is Gibson, that's right. So they can't copy that headstock. And which, by the way, Gibson at any time could use the same headstock that they do on the USA and custom shop models on their Epiphone models if they wanted to. However, the current Epiphone headstock is the quote unquote 60s original. So that's another thing. But that all aside, thank you for clearing that up. So that's why everybody changed their headstocks, because exactly that. Like the H7 in the case of Larry Carlton's, it's a different headstock, but it's still the 335 body shape. So they can do that, but it doesn't mean they can do it as well as the guys who have been doing it for a number of years. And so, with Harley Benton's, it's going to be, it's deja vu, man. Older Harley Benton pickups were clone, yeah. And the pickups themselves. I've talked poorly of Harley Benton pickups for a long time. I know there are people out there who love them to death, but I just have not come across a set of Harley Benton pickups that just work for me. And I because I wasn't there at the time and I've never played one, my understanding that was one of the main complaints about the early 90 Epiphones was the pickups by a lot of people. Some people loved them, most people didn't. Was a major complaint. And as I've told you, pickups are a big part of the game. They're a big part of the woods and all that. That's negligible, but your pickups are very important. And so one of these days, Harley Benton, and the company that makes Harley Benton pickups is not a new company either. They've been making pickups for decades. I don't quite know what the deal is there. I did one video where I took a Harley Benton pickup apart, and it wasn't even called heavily waxed. It was inappropriately waxed. Let's put it that way. And so but I do believe that in 20 years' time that will change. But it seems to just to be the deja vu, the cycle of these things and the way that they go. We are greatly benefiting in this day and age that we live in. What about PRSSE and the SE is just as USA? Yeah, again, there's another example of those are made, I believe, in Indonesia. Yeah, the PRS, yes, and those are awesome guitars. I've played a few of those at the different shops here in town. If I was really into PRSs, then that would be a great way to go. That would be, again, the equivalent of my 40th, Indonesia. That would be the equivalent of my 40th anniversary Telecaster. It's just, the Fender is got better woods, I guess. Although the neck is the most important to me, and but they're both maple necks, and quite frankly, the 40th anniversary neck, because I hate to be here on camera going like this. Somebody will take that out of context. The necks on those guitars are quite different. I prefer the 40th anniversary over the Fender. So, it's the small things that you connect with. Sorry, guys. It's the small things that you connect with, and that's the thing that you're looking for, is that you connect with the guitar, it speaks to you, and you're able to write with. I told you, the minute I picked up that Telecaster, got it home from the shop from Fern, and him making those tweaks to it, I automatically started writing. I automatically started composing with it. And so that's the whole thing. And I'm sure in 2 years' time, once I broke it in, and I really got it, everything, and I've worn those, start to wear those frets down a little bit, and get it nice and where I like it, I'll like it even more. And I didn't care about the fact that it was made in Indonesia, nor do I care that my Les Paul 59 is made in China. I care about, did I connect with those guitars? Did they make sense economically? Because again, like I said, in the case of the 335, with the Gibson 335, you're looking at, holy molies, man, you're looking at 3,500 new, maybe 28 used, and up from there. I totally agree with that. The next on my Fender and Gibson guitars, the feel is headed. You know, that Squire, that 40th anniversary Squire, feels like my Fender made in Japan neck. They feel it. They're so in dimension. The feel of it. The glide. There I go. Sorry, guys. What other way can you describe it when you're talking about without making these obscene gestures? But anyway, the feel of that neck is just like my, and that's what really sold me on. That's why I said I'll take it. I'll do the deal. I'll make the swap. The minute I got a chance to try it out, I said, hey, this feels like home. And you'll know that too. And the Fender necks don't always feel better than the Squire. It's weird. And so therefore, we live, as I said, this is one of the reasons I say we're benefiting from living in this day and age, because we're spoiled for choices. Guys, when I was a kid, I used to dismiss Squires in the early 90s, but 2 Fenders, yeah. You grow too. You grow up, and you start looking at through experience, and you start saying, hey, wait a minute. When I play these two together, do I really see a significant difference that justifies this one over this one, or vice versa? We do that, and that's what I mean. When you first start out, you don't know, and when you get a bad Harley Benton, and you're not a guy like KDH who can sort that kind of thing out, or maybe want to change the pickups or doing something like that, it's a disadvantage. That's why, it's better to go with the Squires. But guess what? The Squires ain't a beginning guitar anymore. Those things are $499. I guess but you got to ask yourself, how many parents, because it's going to be your folks, your parent, or single parent or parents. I was just thinking of getting a Mexican jazz minister, but I think I need to just, really decent speaker. Yeah. Sometimes you don't need any of it. Sometimes you just need to work with what you got. But it's going to be the parents who are going to make that call. And I just can't, if I'm looking at a Harley Benton and I'm Squires are what the made in manufacturers used to be. Exactly. See that progression? Even in that line, you can see where one has taken, where it's gone like that. The made in Mexico line, well deservedly, just like the Japanese Fenders and Squires are just, they're studio giggable, they're studio quality giggable instruments. There's just no disputing that. You have too many pro musicians who use them and will and have them. And but Harley Benton isn't there. I honestly, they're not there. Epiphone is well respected now, or at least well known. Squires are the working musician's guitar right now, and you feel safer. Yeah, like I said, I would take the Squire on stage before I took a Fender, or I would take a Epiphone over a Gibson. I wouldn't have the Gibson in the Fender in the first place, because if something happened to the Squire, then I could replace it. I wouldn't for for not a significant amount of money. In light of that, as opposed to crying, in your pillow at night over your, lost stolen Gibson or Fender. So there's always that to consider as well, and they're giggle. They're great. I didn't have that option when I was growing up. There were the import guitars, were not good. They did the job, and that's where you learn not to be a snob. Because I didn't have the option. I didn't have parents who said, okay, son, I'll take you down to the Guitar Center in Hollywood, and I'll plunk down at that time $500-600 for a Fender or whatever. They just weren't going to do that. 84 Strat was stolen on. Yeah. If you got your good stuff damaged, you'd be devastated. Yeah, would be. Yeah, I got you, and that's why you wouldn't do it. You keep your good stuff at home. Yeah, you don't. You only wear your good underwear to the opera. If you're playing Carnegie Hall or the Grand Ole Opry, or you're playing down here at the Museum Plane or something like that, yeah, bring your good one. That might be the moment to bust it out. But other than that, other than that, I wouldn't. I would leave it at home. And that's the thing. But Harley Benton is not there, and you're not going to have any pro musicians. There are some guys who use them in the studio. I did. My Harley Benton double cut custom that I put a bow nut on. I put in a custom made set of Alnico 3 pickups in it. All the pots and caps switched, everything. It is a studio quality instrument. And dare I say, you could take it on stage and play it. How does it pertain to acoustic guitars? Well, it's the same thing too. That's why I was talking about Harley Benton or Harley Benton's diversity, because Harley Benton produces acoustic guitars as well. And then you're splitting hairs, because with the Epiphone acoustics, those are made in China as well, obviously. You're splitting hairs in terms of construction quality. What about the Casino? And you think that as far as tone and wood? I think the Casino is an excellent guitar. If I wasn't so hot and hard about a 335, I would go for a Casino. Anyway, it's good enough for Johnny L. It's good enough for me, John Lennon played that guitar on those Get Back sessions, and I watched the whole 8 hours of that, just digging the tone that he was getting out of that and that Fender amp, and it sold me on the Casino. But I put all that into that, and there are guys who are taking those Harley Benns and they're using them in the studio like that. However, it's a very limited amount, and those are for guys like me who know I would like a Casino also. Yeah, those are awesome. I saw one down there at Utrecht, my guitar guy. He has one in natural with that darker neck, just like John Lennon's, but it's not the John Lennon special. It actually looks better. This is coming from Sorry for close to the month I've been paying only for my Epiphone 59. Yeah, I get you. But guys, the whole point is that Harley Benton is it's in its infancy at this point. Is the point of this, and so it's an interesting thing to see, and some of us will be alive in 20 years, and to see that way that these things tend to trend. And there will come a day, I hate to think of where Epiphone will be at that time. And, but I'm sticking with it because I'm a believer. I'm a believer in second tier guitars. And I think as it was pointed out here, has been said here on this channel numerous times, is that Squiers and Epiphones are working men's and women's musician instruments. Again, getting back to that first story, and that jerkweed who was saying that we should be ashamed of ourselves for playing these Epiphones and Squiers and whatnot. You know what? Again, not a real musician, because most of the working class musicians that I know of or heard of or that I observe are usually gigging with this type of instrument, this level, second tier. Miss Fender Highway 1, Perfect Now, that's the Fender line. Yeah, there was a lot of the thin line. There was a lot of interesting variations on the Telecaster and some of their other designs that I like. I like the Paranormal series actually, and it sounds weird, but I kind of like that series. I thought that mix up the Tele Strat mix or whatever or whatever it was a great looking, interesting design. Yeah, but they're not there yet, and don't expect it to be, and don't expect and treat it as such. Again, if Harley Benton is now opened up its distribution in the states through their warehouse there they have opened up. Just be careful when it comes to Harley Benton. It's hit and miss, and if you have a relative or you got somebody who is looking about getting somebody entry level guitar, um, older or younger, regardless of age, and you're around, just spread that word out there. Be part of that network that lets people know that hey, you stay away from these. You may want to spend a little bit more, but this is a guitar that you can have will last if you keep it well. Will last you a lifetime. I truly believe that about my 40th anniversary Squire. I know that guitar, if I treat it well, will last a lifetime. My 59 Epiphone, I know if I treat it well, it'll last a lifetime. And because it has that poly finish on it, it'll still look good. It won't look, like crap. Well, that again comes to me. But if I keep it nice, it'll look very lovely for years to come. And so you really have to kind of spread that word around to your family and friends. If we all do that, I think that we can, avoid, because really a Harley Benton guitar, I don't think is a beginner guitar. I don't. I actually think that Harley Bentons are good for your more experienced guitar player, not necessarily your advanced guys, but your moderate guys, the guys who have had a couple of years under their belts and they know a thing or two. Because when they get that guitar, if it needs work on it, I immediately be able to identify what the issue is and possibly themselves make those changes. A beginner is not going to be able to do that. Therefore, it is not a guitar that is good for a beginner, which is the market that they're aiming for, ironically, which gets us back to the 90s and the Epiphones and why they developed the reputation that they did. See how that, it's the same, it's a deja vu, man. It just keeps going like that. But I made that observation this week, and I thought I would share it with you guys. This again, like I said, I start a script. Well, okay, we're going to talk about this, but sometimes it leads to something related that will give you a moment to think. Hey, let me think of it that way. I don't know. Acoustic guitars, just touching back on that real quick. I would buy an Epiphone acoustic guitar over a Harley Benton any day of the week. Any day of the week. Because they just, the guys at Epiphone, it's a self-contained factory, and these guys, the acoustics and the electrics, those guys have been there for decades on those lines, and they just have the kind of experience that I know Yamaha acoustic. Yeah, guys, my acoustic guitar that I bought in Japan in 1997, sitting here right behind me, is a Yamaha acoustic, and it has served me well. And it has been the one and only acoustic guitar that I've ever needed. So it's been the one and only acoustic guitar that I've personally needed. And so, really, acoustic guitars, those are choices that I would highly recommend. That's one of those things that I really think that that's where you want to put a little bit more money into. Because a cheap acoustic guitar, I got lucky, I got a good one, but, it's 30 years old now, or more than 30 years old now. But I got a good one, and it's lasted me a lifetime. And so I have that viewpoint on acoustic guitars, that if you invest in an acoustic guitar, you really, really should try to put as much money and get the nicest one that you can, because you know, the cheaper models are really doing you a disservice in a lot of ways. They'll cost you more in the end to intonate and to make work, than if you just bought a better one. Harley Benton Takamine, had my Takamine acoustic since 1990. It's going on Australia. Oh yeah, man! A lot of my friends had the Takamine. I never knew how to pronounce it. Takamine, Takemine. I guess if it's Japanese, Takemine. I guess Amine, Takemine, possibly pronunciation on that. Never was sure. A lot of my friends growing up had those. That was one of the main axes of a lot of cats. A lot of my friends growing up, they had those acoustics, and yeah, they're awesome. Again, so acoustic guitar is a little bit different. I treated my, that's just me, guys. That's my mindset. I treat it a little bit different because I look at an acoustic guitar as something that I plan on holding on for a long time, as evidenced by the one that I have. And once you got one, and if it works for you, there's really no need to get another one. If you don't believe me, just look at Trigger, Willie Nelson's guitar. Because he's not rushing down to the Guitar Center to pick up a new one, even though he could. No, acoustic guitars are even more intimate in some cases than electric guitars. But they can be. And so treat it as such, you know. It's like, you know, be careful who you marry, you know, because you think of it in the long run. And it's the same thing with acoustic guitars. That's something that you want to invest as much money as you can into. That's somewhere where I say cutting the corners will do you a disservice. Would it be nice to get an old J45 from 1940? Obviously, yeah, great. I'm sure it'd be awesome. Would it be worth the money? I'm sure I'm not mistaken. The Epiphones, the current Epiphones from well, the Epiphone factory, the Epiphones vary in the woods, if that's what you're asking. The factory has always been the same. Guys, like I said, I think it just comes down to the experience. Takamine, Mini, Takamine. I tried. Anyway, those awesome guitars. No, I think it's experience, guys. It's really what it is. And that's what makes me mad when again, getting back to that first thing, and that guy saying that again about Epiphones, because it really degrades those people there. You know, those people have dedicated their lives, and the guy who heads the line there was the chief guy who opened up the custom shop in the United States for Gibson. So the guy who's running the line at Epiphone, you think, you know, it's just an insult all the way around. So, you know, but again, let's not digress. Yeah, Harley Benz guys. So just be careful with it. My 59 is a great, yeah, they're great, and I have no desire. I look at it every day. I see mine every day. I pick it up almost every day and play a bit. I've been playing the Telecaster a lot more, to be honest. But yeah, I honestly can say that I enjoy playing that from a sense that I don't feel like I don't know. I don't feel like I'm in any way short or in need. I have learned that the second gear guitars are the way to go. As an older guy, working musician still, I have learned that second tier higher end guitars like these Epiphones and some of these Squiers in Mexico, made in Mexico and made in Japan, Fenders are the way to go. And you're not going to convince me otherwise. And you're not going to shame me or say hurtful, negative things that are going to make me change my mind on that, because me and about 50 million other musicians see it other way. see it otherwise. So there's that. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope you found tonight's. Oh, so one thing I want to say before I do go is let's not forget about the giveaway. So I'm doing. I really agree. I tend to play My American Special Tele. Yeah. And that's, again, it comes down to what you bind with as well. Again, with a true musician, it's the things that you bind with. I always use Prince as an example because think of the dozens of albums that he recorded, and the literally hundreds of thousands of live shows that he did. Hey, before you guys go, hold on and think about. He always used the same equipment. He used the same guitar mostly, and he used the guitars or copies of the same guitar, and he used the same pedals. You know, so don't get caught into the trap again of things. The giveaway. So as you guys know, I am doing a giveaway. I am giving away this Mooer Shimverb. This Mooer Shimverb is from my. I used this actually on the recording of my last album. I love the spring reverb on this, but I am doing a giveaway here on the channel. So all you need to do, even down in the comments of this live stream or in the regular thing that I did talking about the giveaway, list 3 items that I reviewed this year. For example, the 335 or the 40th anniversary Squire or any of the other things that I reviewed this year. List 3 of them down in the description of this live stream, or comment over in the giveaway video the same, and I will put you in the drawing to win this Mooer Shimverb. I'm giving this away. Mickey and his, I just can't get over. Again, I'll talk about this to Kingdom Come, how kind Mickey was in sending me that pickup. My God, Mickey, that pickup is just a beauty. It is a wonderful Telecaster pickup, and it got me thinking to myself, let's, what do they say? Play it forward, and let's give away something really nice. And so, guys, so 3 things that I have reviewed this year, 2022. Put it down in the description of this video. Put yourself in the drawing to win this. We'll put everybody's name down in a hat. Epiphone 335. Yeah. Put that all down into the description. We'll put all names into a hat. We'll draw the winner out. And one of you guys or ladies will be the lucky winner of this Shimverb. I don't have the box, but I do have I have a number of pedal boxes. So anyway, you will get this in good shape, and I wish you all good luck. So don't forget that there is a giveaway going on, either in the description of this video or the giveaway video. Just name 3 things that I reviewed and put yourself in the running. All right, folks, thank you so much for showing up tonight. I really want to thank each and every one of you. At one point, we had about 20 people watching live. That's awesome. I want to thank you guys for taking the time. A Happy New Year. Yeah, let me say a Happy New Year to you. Yes. Happy New Year to each and every one of you guys. I really hope that for each and every one of us that this is a good year and truly a happy year. So Happy New Year to each and every one of you guys. Awesome to have such a great community like this. A wonderful group of people who come here all the time, true musicians, each and every one of you. I'm really on one of those sex offender type guitars. Yeah, serviceable. And I hope that the things that we talk about on this channel point you in the right direction to be frugal, economical, and wise in your purchases. To not always trust YouTube, even though I'm talking to you from YouTube. Yes, I know the irony of that. But I think that you're intelligent enough to pick out the snake oil salesman from the people who truly, like I'm trying to be, and KDH and a lot of other guys are trying to be really honest. Let's make this channel pop in 2020. I agree with that. Let's do that, guys. But let's just keep it real. Let's keep it awesome. Let's keep it helpful. So until next week, you guys take care. Again, the regular show this week is going to be a 335 Les Paul comparison. So if you're in your market for a Les Paul or 335, boy, have I got an earful for you of what I think you should be doing. All right, guys, you take care. Bye-bye.